Chapter 9, Adolescent Social Development. So we're looking at personality development as well as social relationships during the teen years. So the teen years are this period of time out where the person is exploring their identity, who they are and who they want to become in terms of, say, their occupation, their sexual identity, their values, their ethnicity, all right? So who they are and who they wish to become. Watch this video on identity formation and make sure to read through all this whole section so that you fully understand what is entailed, what identity formation refers to. So Erickson said that this time of adolescence is all about identity versus identity confusion. The adolescent seeks to develop a coherent sense of self, including figuring out what role he or she is going to play in society. So the virtue that arises from this conflict is fidelity or commitment or loyalty towards one's identity. So Marcia offers these different identity statuses to be able to identify where somebody is in their ego development, all right? And the terms crisis and commitment are used in this theory, and crisis, according to Marcia, refers to really more of an exploration. So crisis, exploration, when a teen has experienced this crisis, it means that they've just really explored who they are. And commitment means that they've made a decision to be committed to being this person or adopting this a certain career. So here are the different statuses. The first one is identity diffusion / confusion. So in this, the teen has not had a crisis, so really hasn't explored their options for careers, their sexual identity. Really, they have not explored who they are, and they haven't made a decision or a commitment to an identity or to their plans for the future. So they're really just kind of confused about who they are. They're kind of all over the place, all right? So foreclosure refers to they've made a commitment, but they really haven't had this crisis. They really haven't explored the different possibilities. So maybe they're committed to, say, be a doctor, because their parents have said that they were going to be a doctor throughout their life. So they made a commitment, but they haven't really explored different options. They've foreclosed. They've made a decision way too soon. Like when you foreclose on a home, maybe you made the decision to buy the home before really thinking it through. So commitment without a crisis, commitment without exploration. So 50% of late teens remain in foreclosure or identity diffusion. The other 50% are in this moratorium or identity achievement status. So moratorium refers to they've had this crisis without a commitment. So they've explored or they are exploring who they are, but they are not committed yet to saying, all right, this is what I'm going to become and this is who I am. They're still figuring it out. Identity achievement means that they made this decision after a period of exploring their options, exploring the alternatives. So they've explored who they are, who they want to become, and they're committed to that identity. So read through the differences between the genders, read through this part on ethnic factors, and as well as cultural socialization, and it's how that affects identity formation. All right, so part of an adolescent's identity is their sexual identity, which refers to seeing oneself as being a sexual being, having these sexual stirrings, recognizing one's sexual orientation. Who are they attracted to, sexually attracted to? And part of sexual identity includes forming romantic and sexual attachments, but it doesn't necessarily mean having a sexual encounter. You can be committed to a sexual identity without having, say, had sexual intercourse. It means just understanding that you are a sexual being and coming to terms with that. So sexual orientation is part of sexual identity, and it appears to be influenced by both nature and nurture. It appears to be influenced by genes as well as our experiences. So read through this as well as watch this video. It's very interesting. It looks at a number of different studies that suggest that that maybe genes are that we maybe inherit our sexual orientation, at least in part. So watch that. Now, sexual behavior, what's happening with teens and how sexually involved are they? So the average age of first intercourse is 17 years for females and 16 years for males. By the end of high school, about 66%, 2/3 of American adolescents will have had intercourse at least once. And a lot of different reasons for maybe postponing having sex, as well as these different factors for risk factors for having sex early. History of sexual abuse actually can, if somebody has been sexually abused as a child, they are more at risk for having sex early. Having puberty, starting puberty earlier, more at risk for having sex earlier. So read through that, as well as read through the different meanings for boys and girls for when they lose their virginity. Research suggests that they deal with that differently. They view losing their virginity differently. Part of being sexual beings is being aware of the risk of sexually transmitted infections, as well as teen pregnancies and childbearing. So, sexually transmitted infections. What helps teens to not get an STI is comprehensive sex education programs. Okay, so what the best sex ed programs are going to encourage not having sex, abstinence. They're going to encourage it, but they're not going to stress only that. They're going to realize that some teens are going to have sex, so we need to also teach them safe sex. So abstinence only programs really haven't been that effective. So we need to understand that, yes, stress waiting to have sex, but also be real about it and teach safe sex practices. So read through this, as well as the teen pregnancy section, so you really understand these risks of being sexually active. So teen pregnancy is actually at an all-time low. All right, but in the U.S., we're still pretty high in comparison to other industrialized societies. Okay, so we're at an all-time low in the U.S., but we're still pretty high. And what are the reasons for it being high? There's a reduced stigma, maybe the media. Again, we need comprehensive sex ed to prevent teen pregnancies. So 90% of the teen pregnancies are unintended. Research shows that Blacks and Hispanics are more likely to become pregnant during their teen years. And some different risks for girls that become a teen mother or become a mother in their teen years is that they are more likely to drop out of high school. They may have financial hardships. They may become pregnant again during their teen years. But what research shows is that 20 years later, when you look at these teen moms 20 years later, that most are not on welfare, most have finished high school, and most have a steady job. So it might take them a little bit longer to, say, get their lives together, but in the end, there are a lot of, most are doing fine and are productive members of society 20 years later. So part of this conversation of teen moms is we need to talk about these teen fathers, all right? The teen fathers, when involved, are also going to have maybe limited financial resources. Why? Because they're not adults yet. They don't have their full education and careers and such. So they're at risk for higher dropout rates. Let's look at relationships with family, peers, and adults. So how are teens interacting with others? Is adolescent rebellion a myth? We always hear that adolescents are such troublemakers. They're always in conflict with family. In reality, this is not true. Only 20% of teens fit this pattern of reckless behavior, this total rejection of adult values, all right? So, the majority of teens are doing just fine. They are not rebellious, all right? So that's 20%. So during the teen years, we see that the adolescents are spending an increasing amount of time with their peers, but the relationship with parents are still very important. So watch this video. Teens will talk about that they may look to their peers for some advice, but when they really need some advice on the serious the serious things in life about college and their future careers and decisions, that they look to their parents. So what needs to be happening here in the teen years is that parents need to be handing over more and more of the regulation to the teen. So adolescents are struggling to become separate individuals. So they want autonomy. They want to differentiate themselves from their parents. They want to establish their own personal identity. So as they do this, as they're pulling away, there's going to be some parental conflict, and it's completely normal. This is what teens are supposed to be doing. They are pulling away. They are becoming their own selves. They are becoming their own individuals. They are differentiating from their parents. And as they do that, that means that they're going to clash with their parents sometimes, okay? Because they are differentiating. So this is normal, all right? Authoritative parents, of course, again, are associated with the most positive outcomes. Parents should grant increasing independence, but at the same time, we need to remember that adolescents still will have some immature lapses in judgment because of the underdeveloped prefrontal cortex, because they're using their amygdala, right, still to a certain extent. So we still need to be watching and monitoring adolescents' whereabouts and providing some guidance, because they're not fully developed yet. All right, so adolescents and peers, what's going on is that, again, the peers are becoming more and more important, and teens are more vulnerable to peer influence if their parents are not keeping track of them and who they're with. So go ahead and watch this video on peer influences. It's going to talk about how adolescents are going to move from maybe having the same sex, being in groups with the same sex and same age and such, and talk about cliques and crowds, and then romantic relationships. What are the pros and cons of romantic relationships? And watch this video as well. All right, working, what's happening with teens as they're trying to figure out who they're going to become, what kind of careers they're going to have. So make sure to read through this. Is it good for our teens to have a job as they're going through high school? And research shows that 5 to 10 hours is okay, but sometimes if they're working more than that, then it can get in the way of their schoolwork and have a negative effect on their mental health. Summer employment can be great, though, because it's not getting in the way of school. So drinking and drugs. 2/3 of seniors have had alcohol within their senior year, and 2/3 of American teens have experimented with cigarettes. And the factors that encourage or detract teens from use, really the parents, parent influence, peer influence, and the teen's ability to cope with stress. Depression in the teen years can involve this. The symptoms are sadness, irritability, low self-esteem. The teen may seem unhappy and angry and irritated. They may want to be left alone. They may believe that others are really unfriendly. And so what's the cause of this depression? It can be nature, biology, this neurotransmitter imbalance, or it can be nurture, environmental experiences, bullying. All right, so therapy and medication can help. Some controversy on how effective the medication is, as well as the risks with teenagers. So along with depression is suicide, and suicide is the third leading cause of death in the teen years. So you do see an increase in the teen years with suicide, and it can be associated with bullying. So read through this antisocial behavior and juvenile delinquency section. It's going to look at what are the influences of becoming delinquent in the adolescent years, as well as what are some factors that can prevent it. So intervention programs, what should they aim to do? So they should aim to get family involved, help the teens to have better interactions at home and at school, and have some after-school activities, prevent gang recruitment, as well as offer adult-guided support groups. These are some things that research has shown can be effective for preventing delinquency. Also watch these videos on bullying, so emotional bullying, and if you haven't already watched this one, it's called To This Day. It's a TED Talk that looks at the topic of bullying during teen years. It's very interesting.